everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought we could do a monthly reading wrap up. I want to start doing these more often and showing you guys what books I read each month. And this month I have managed to get through 10 books, which is kind of crazy. I never normally read that much, but I've had quite a bit of spare time because uni is dwindling down now. I've only got about 3 weeks left of uni, so I've not had as much to do, which has meant I've had a lot more time for reading, and I've just been in such a reading mood lately. So I have read so much, like I said, this month, and I really wanted to show you guys in a reading wrap up. Got my cup of tea. You guys are actually sat on a stack of books because I wanted to sit on the floor today, so I was like, where can I put you? And you're sat on a stack of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books. Kind of fun. Anyways, let's get into the video. So the first book that I read this month was Fearless by Lauren Roberts, which is the final book in the Powerless trilogy. However, it's not the final book in the Powerless universe because obviously there's the Powerful novella, and then I have heard through the grapevine that apparently there's another novella coming out, and there's been lots of questioning about who it's going to be about. I think it might be about Blair. That's what I think. And I know a lot of people aren't happy about that, but I think that'd actually be really interesting. I won't speak too much about this one because I did do a whole reading vlog on the Powerless series, but I rated this a 4 stars. I know a lot of people were very disappointed with the ending, but personally I quite enjoyed it. And I did cry a lot in this book. I've literally got a tab called Crying, which is for specifically where I cried. Can I just say the cover of this book, like the actual book, is just gorgeous. Like, look at that. I'm definitely gonna have to put the book on display because it's stunning, although I do really want to get the sprayed edges version when that comes out. But anyways, yeah, I think it's a really nice wrap up to the story. Obviously any author, there's going to be so many different endings you could possibly have, and not everyone's going to be happy with the ending, but I enjoyed it personally. I think it sort of added something to the story. The next book I then went on to was Solitaire. I felt like with this I just needed something away from fantasy because I had read the whole Powerless series in like one sitting. So, well, not one sitting, but one after the other. So I thought I would read something non-fantasy, and I've been wanting to read Solitaire for a really long time, and I loved this book. I really just connected with Tori's character, and when Heartstopper first came out, I would do the different Heartstopper quizzes of like, which character am I, and half the time I would be Tori. So yeah, I definitely connect to her character, and I've got lots of tabs actually in this book. I don't know if you can see them all, but I've got a fair few tabs, and I also have got a lot that I underlined in this book. And I also just liked being back in the Heartstopper sort of universe again. It really made me want to do a rewatch of the Heartstopper series, and I still need to buy the rest of the comics because I've only got the first 2, I think. So I do really want to, I have read them all because I've read them on like the website, but I really want to get the physical copy. But I do now also want to get some more of Alice Oseman's books because I think they're written in a really sort of reachable way. And yeah, I felt sort of seen in this book, which is always nice, and I gave this again a 4 stars. Next up, after that, I moved on to the If He Had Been With Me duology by Laura Nolan. I think this one was a 4 stars and this one was a 3.5 stars. So I did enjoy this one a little bit more. This is the first book, which is the If He Had Been With Me book, and this is surrounding Autumn and Finn. They used to be childhood best friends. They sort of drifted apart, but they've always, I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, they've always had feelings for each other. I don't want to spoil it in case it wasn't on the blurb, but yeah, they've always had feelings for each other. And I think you can tell from the title it is a sad book. It's got a sad ending, and this one is shown through Autumn's perspective, whereas this book is, it's got 3 different POVs, so it's set into 3 sections. So it's not like one POV, another one. It's sort of set into like 3 bits. This is this. So the first POV is Finn, the second one is Jack, which is Finn's best friend, and then the third POV is Autumn. I did like this one as well, but it just felt a little bit slower, and I didn't have the urge to pick it up as much as this one. Whereas this one, I think, how quick did it take me to read this? It didn't take me very long at all. Yeah, so this one took me not even 2 days to read because I just kept on picking. My camera just ran out of storage, which is very rude if you ask me, but we're back. I have lost my train of thought now. I can't remember what I was saying about these books, but oh yeah, I was saying that I read this one a lot quicker, and I felt this one's a little bit not fast. It wasn't more fast, well, it was kind of was more fast paced, but it was also just that I felt the urge to pick it up more than I did this one. Don't get me wrong, this one was still a good book. It was still like a 3.5 stars, but just not as much as this one. I think it's because you sort of already know what happens in this one, so then you're sort of dreading it in this one, if that makes sense. But yeah, they are the next two books that I read in the month of May. I then went on to read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I felt like after reading such sad and deep books of the If He Had Been With Me duology, I needed something a little bit more light-hearted, just a fun romance. And I believe this is Ali Hazelwood's only YA book. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on that. But I liked that. I do often prefer YA books because I'm not a massive fan of reading spice. I don't mind if it's just one chapter, but some books is just a bit too much for me. Whereas YA books, obviously you don't get any of that, so it's quite nice. And this book I really liked. I loved that it was around chess, because I don't think I've ever read a book that's like revolving around chess, and I have started learning chess. I really want to get good at it. One of my friends' boyfriends started teaching me, and I've also been learning online as well. But chess is definitely something that I want to get better at. And the only other Ali Hazelwood book that I read it ages ago when I was first getting back into reading again, and that was The Love Hypothesis. But I do want to read some more of Ali Hazelwood's books because I think they're just quite fun reads. This one revolves around Mallory Greenleaf, and she used to be the best chess player. Like, she was so good as a kid. She would go to chess tournaments. She was amazing until something happened with her father that made her stop playing chess, and she refused. She vowed that she was never going to play chess ever again. That isn't until an opportunity comes up where she sort of begrudgingly agrees to play in this tournament to help out her friend. And as it turns out, the current world champion, Nolan, is there. And things happen, sparks fly, but she feels like she has to hide the fact that she's playing chess from her family because of the history in the past with their dad. Yes, I did enjoy this. Also, I love the cover of this. The colours are just, I love it. I rated the book a 4.25 stars. The next couple of books I unfortunately have not got with me on hand because I read them when I went home. I went home for about a week and I read them there. So the next two books I read was the Shepherd King duology. So that is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. Now again, hopefully there's going to be a video up soon where I do a whole reading vlog of that. But this duology was so fascinating, especially the first book. I really enjoyed the first book, and it was just, I think what I loved about it was such a unique world. So it was all based off of these things called Providence cards, which are a little bit like tarot cards, that sort of idea. And whoever has each one of these cards sort of then holds that power. So for example, like the Maiden card makes you become the most beautiful person in the world. What else was there? There was one card where you could then tell who your enemies were, one card where you could like control people's minds, but if you have the card too long and you keep the power too long, the opposite thing happens or something terrible happens instead. It's all about bargaining. And the Shepherd King is the person who created these cards in the first place. So we are set in a magical universe, but it's very different to any other sort of fantasy or magical book that I've read before, which is what I really enjoyed about it, because I think a lot of fantasy books can feel quite repetitive. And there was a romance, but it was sort of more of a subplot, I think. So again, that's where it's different from a lot of other fantasy books, because that wasn't the main part of the story. Like, the story was the main part and the romance was the little bit you were rooting for on the side, which I found quite refreshing. And it just, yeah, like I said, felt different to a lot of the other fantasy books I've read, and I've not read one like this before, as I think a lot of fantasy books you can sort of compare it to a different fantasy book that you've read, whereas this one I couldn't. And yeah, the first book I rated a 4.25 stars and the second book I rated a 4 stars, just because I think the second one took me a little bit longer to get into, which I often find in duologies. The second one just takes a bit longer to get into, I think, because the first one you're completely fresh into it and you're learning all these things about this world, whereas the second one you're already in it, so it's just sort of getting back into it again. But yeah, both books I did enjoy. I then read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, and I rated this another 4.25 stars. I quite like that rating, 4.25. The reason I picked this book was because it was surrounding anxiety and OCD, both things I have gone through in my personal life, and I love books where you feel seen and books where you can be like, I get that, that is me. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to pick up that book in the first place. It wasn't exactly the same as the experiences that I've had, but it's always just nice to have a little bit of your experience in a book, and to be able to read about it and know that other people, even though it's fictional, know that other people have gone through it, sort of thing. And so her OCD and her anxiety wasn't the main part of the book. There was a whole plot alongside that, where basically this man had gone missing, and the main character of the book is friends with this man's son. And well, she used to be when she was younger, and she sort of reconnects with him again because her and her best friend want to find out what happened to him. They're just really interested in this case. They feel like detectives, and there's also a reward going out. The police have said that if anyone can give information, I think it was like a £10,000 reward, and they wanted that £10,000. But alongside that, you sort of see inside her mind, and you sort of just feel what she feels and understand. I think it also makes you sort of reflect on the fact that you never know what's going on inside someone's head. Like, they can be doing these things on the side but also have so many thoughts in their head, and it was a very like reflective book, I found. That was a 4.25. Obviously, if you do struggle with OCD, anxiety, anything like that, then do just sort of keep that in mind if it's going to trigger you when you read the book, but I would recommend. I then read In the Shadows by Tanya Bryn. I read this on the train back to uni, and I finished it while I was on the train. And this is a sort of, I wouldn't call it a second chance romance because it's not quite like that, but it is at the same time, but it's not. Does that make sense? So basically, the main character in this book is called Mara, and she was seeing a girl called Nico, and Nico was very mysterious, quite detached, and she could be quite unpredictable, but Mara was still very much in love with her, very much was obsessed with her. It sort of gave like golden retriever energy, like she was constantly wanting to see her and things, but Nico was very unpredictable, and one day she'd be like, I want to see you, like I love spending time with you, and the next day she'd be like, I can't, sorry. And Mara never really understood it. Mara's friends never liked Nico because of the way she treated Mara, but Mara just really liked her. Until one day, a girl is rescued from the sea, and this girl happens to be Nico. However, Nico has lost all of her memory. She doesn't remember Mara, she doesn't remember herself, she doesn't remember anything. And this is sort of Mara's chance to start over with her. But again, it's one of those complicated things where do you tell Nico that you know her, or do you just start fresh but still live with the guilt that you do know her? Very cool concept. I would say look at the trigger warnings in this though, because there is definitely some trigger warnings. I don't want to spoil what it is just in case, but there is some trigger warnings, so yeah. Another thing I love about this was that it was set in Brighton, so when they would mention sort of certain locations in Brighton, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've been there, or they'd be like referencing bus stops, and I'd be like, I get the bus from there. So it was quite cool to read a book, because where I live at home, it's not a known place sort of thing. It's not like a popular famous place, so you never read about it in books. Obviously Brighton is very well known, so it was quite fun to read about that in a book. And I rated this a 4 stars. Now this next book could slightly count as cheating because I've not finished it yet, but I will probably be almost finished it by the time the month is up, so I'm going to include it anyway. And that is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. Now I have never read an Olivia Blake book before, but I know I mention her quite a lot on my channel. Freya Valerio, I think her name is. I know she loves Olivia Blake, and I've been wanting to read this for ages. It's been on my it's been on my TBR for a while, and I finally picked it up, and I'm about halfway through now, so I feel like that's acceptable to include it in my May wrap up. This is surrounding the Antonova sisters and the Fedorov brothers, and this is sort of described as a bit of a Romeo and Juliet sort of retelling, because the families are very much opposing. They do not get on, they're not supposed to be, well, they're not supposed to be friends, they're not supposed to know each other. There's a lot of bad blood, there's a lot of forbidden romance, there is a lot of power struggles, internal conflicts. I should probably add it's witch families. The Antonovas and the Fedorovs are 2 witch families, but not everyone in this world are witches, it's just certain people are witches. It's set in a normal world but with witches in the world as well, if that makes sense. I feel like I can't say too much about this book because I am only halfway through, so I don't know what happens yet. I'm very intrigued as to what happens, because we've just been through a bit of a situation and I want to know what happens after that. But yeah, so I can't give you a rating because I've not finished it yet, but the writing in this book is very different to things I've read before. It's quite descriptive, but in like a very lyrical way, and the descriptions in this are really, really beautiful. So yeah, but that is the final book that I've read in May, kind of. So they are all the books that I read in the month of May. I really want to start doing this more often. Hopefully as well, now that we're going into summer, I will have more time to read in summer holidays, so I can keep doing this and keep doing my monthly reading wrap-ups. But I'm going to leave you all here now. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you soon. Bye!